This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. Today, we're going to continue our deep dive, and we're still in this area of building a team for maximum growth. The overall series we're on still, if you followed us through the series, is how do you grow the value of your company? Well, today I want to title the episode, How to Use Performance Reviews for Value Growth. How to use performance reviews for value growth. Now, notice whenever I said performance reviews, I didn't say performance meetings. I believe we should formally document the performance of our team, but it can be most effectively achieved, in my opinion, through on-the-job training. So I want to talk to you in a two-part series today on how to actually deal with the process of performance reviews. And then the next episode, we're going to deal with how to actually do a performance review. Whenever I say performance review, many times people think of a manager, a boss, a manager of some sort, who ultimately is sitting back and telling the employee or the person who is being reviewed what's wrong. And unfortunately, that's very sad. That's not the way we should operate our businesses. See, performance management is like to call it. I call it performance management. It's a mindset. It's an operation. It's an aura. It's a process of managing the team for maximum performance. Performance management is a process that begins immediately at the moment you hire that employee or that team member into your organization. And it's a process that helps supervisors and the employee reach a shared understanding of what is expected. What's expected in the terms of behavior, or results, or feedback, progress, whatever the employee is expected to accomplish, a performance management process will help through this. So I want to start off by giving you 7 tips that I've realized in my own practices over the years, my own businesses, and what I see comes from a couple of our current clients and what I've noticed in their practices as key tips when conducting performance management. So tip number 1 is to have a clear, documented expectation. When you bring a team member on, it's not good enough just to tell somebody what you expect from them. Most of the time, we forget what we're told. I don't know about you, but the older I get, man, I'm having a hard time retaining as much as I used to. I was telling somebody today at a business meeting, I said, I used to could quote out chapter and verse on everything I could think of. Now I remember the data, but I can't remember where I read it exactly. They laugh and say, yeah, welcome to getting older. People retain only a little bit about what you tell them. So it's vital that we have clear, documented expectations. Write down what you expect the team member to do. Put it in the job description. Put it in the annual meeting. We're going to go into that a little bit, but you got to have clear, documented expectations. The next thing, point number 2, is you're regularly going to discuss the key components the employee is working toward. What is it that you expect that team member to accomplish? And what are the key components? And you're going to regularly discuss this. See, oftentimes the reason why performance meetings have such a negative connotation is because they occur so infrequently, and the poor employee is left coming into the supervisor, the boss's office, or the owner's office, not really knowing what is expected or if they're on track. So number 1, not only should you have documented, number 2, you should regularly discuss the components that the team member needs. Number 3, and this is kind of in the same akin, it is to meet with your team regularly. You want to constantly be involved with those team members. Now, I was reading a book. It's one of my favorite books called Extreme Ownership. I've referenced it before on the show. And I think Leif Babbitt was the one who was talking at that particular point in the book. And he said that the average person, the average manager, can only effectively manage about 3 to 5 people. Okay. So if you're the owner, then you can effectively meet 3 to 5 people. Well, those may end up being your key managers or your key proponents within your business. But then those individuals can only effectively manage 3 to 5 people. And, in churches, we see it as a small group, and we have that happening now throughout the country, small groups. In networking facilities, you typically see people break it down to small areas so you can be more intimate and more intent. And so you want to meet regularly with your team, or at least those people that are directly beneath your direct influence. The fourth thing you can do is do what's called a 360-degree feedback. And if you Google this, it's a really popular strategy. I'm not going to spend a whole episode on 360 feedback, but basically what it does is you bring in a review process to where every person within the direct contact of the member who's being assessed. So let's say you have Sally, who's the person you're going to do a performance review with. Then you have all of Sally's direct peers do an assessment on what she's good at or what she needs improvement on. It's called a 360 feedback. So you can do that as number 4. Number 5 is you want to share the performance review format. You want to know the rules to which you're playing the game, is the way I say it. I remember playing baseball, playing a sports thing. I think it was some type of game at our church years ago. It's not our current location, but remember the rules kept changing. You would start playing the game one way and before you know it, the rules would change. And it's like, well, I don't even know how to play the game anymore because I didn't know the rules. So think about it from that avenue as I'm sharing the performance review feedback. It is only fair for your team members to know exactly what they're going to be critiqued by. We were watching football and I was in West Virginia with some clients. We were watching some team that actually ended up beating West Virginia. And the commentator made a statement about a stat. You know how commentators are. They say, so-and-so has ran this many stats. It's the longest run in his career yet. And it's just a stat. Well, it may not be intriguing to some people, but that running back who just broke a personal record knew the stat because he knew how he was going to be judged in the world of that particular football and football in general. So it's only fair for your employees to have the same position. It's only fair for them to have the same opportunity to know how they're going to be judged. The 6th thing you can do is to work together setting the goals. Work together setting the goals. It shouldn't be dictatorial in nature. And the reason why I say that, and I realize you're the business owner. I get it. I am the business owner. I am the grand poobah. I am the head cheese, right? I have that same thought. But the problem is if we are constantly dictating without leading, if we're constantly dictating the goals without allowing mutual buy-in, then we're not building the best-in-class business. We're not building the business to where other top talent is choosing to come work with or for or together with. So one of the ways you can help curb that is you can work together with your employee, whoever the direct underling is, on setting the goals. That's number 6. And number 7, I call it the Oreo effect. Basically, you're going to discuss the positive and the negative components. The reason why I call it the Oreo effect is because if you've ever looked at an Oreo, which I'm sure you have, any human in the United States of America should know the old jingle Oreo, even though it was when I was a kid. But remember it used to go Oreo Nabisco, because we know Oreo. But in Oreo, you have that delicious goodness, right? The chocolate. And if you're so lucky that your wife buys you double stuffed Oreos, Emily sometimes does and sometimes doesn't. I just told her no more buying like the Walmart cheap off brand because they don't have the same taste. Anyways, whenever you go into those double stuffed Oreos, you know that in the middle you got double the heavenly goodness of that creamy whatever it is. Probably like cancer on crack and something. I don't know. The same thing happens in business though, is that whenever you're discussing with team management is you want to think of the Oreo. You want to start off with a little bit of sweetness. Then, and unlike the Oreo, you may not like the white part. I love the white part. But in the middle of the sweetness, you're going to give the negative components, things that are improvements, areas of opportunity. And then you're going to finish with sweetness. There's an old saying that you catch more flies with honey. It's just amazing how just being kind to people can set things apart. So number 7 is you're going to discuss the positive and negative components.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
So that is the key points of conducting a performance management process. But now let's talk about the actual process. See, there are 7 different steps as well in the process, and they're divided into 3 separate categories. So the first category is the beginning. The beginning, and this is whenever the employee originally starts in your organization, or it could be the beginning of a new project, or it could be a calendar beginning. Let's say January is coming right up. You might meet with all of your employees and you set goals. So the beginning of whatever it is, whether it's an employee's tenure, whether it's a project, whether it's a calendar year, a fiscal year, whatever the beginning is. So let's say the beginning. So in step number 1 of this process, you're going to meet with the employee if you're the manager, or you're going to have the manager meet with the employee. And you're going to set the expectations and allow the employee to set goals. for whatever length of time. I like to look at things on a yearly basis. So to keep this super simple, let's say you just hired somebody, you're starting a new project, and it's January 1st. That way we cover all three of those scenarios. What you're going to do is you're going to begin by setting the expectation and working with the employee to help them, he or she, set their goals. And the employee is going to set their goals. And then step number 2 at the beginning is the manager is going to review, possibly amend, but they're going to review and ultimately approve that the goals the employee set is the goals that the manager expects to have take place. So you may not have managers, maybe the business owner. Ultimately, you're going to allow the employee to write out what they believe is possible with your direction. You're going to critique it, and you're ultimately going to sign it. You're ultimately going to approve the process. So that's at the beginning. Those are the first 2 steps. Now, throughout the year, as I mentioned earlier, it's a process. It's an ongoing process. Throughout the year, you're going to constantly review the results of the activities, the results of the goals, the results of the progress, whatever term you need in your particular business. You're going to review these with the employee. But here's where you're going to flip things on its head. You're going to allow the employee to tell you, the manager or the business owner, depending on how you're running your business, you're going to allow them to tell you the results. You're going to allow the employee to validate the expectations. You're going to allow the employee to comment on the progress, whether they're happy or not. So you're moving the ownership or the dictatorial process that many business owners, especially us small business owners do. You're moving it from us, where we're trying to drive the boat, to now you're giving ownership, extreme ownership as the book was written. You're giving ownership to those employees so that they're the ones who are doing assessments. So that's the 3rd step. Now, when you get those assessments, those validations, those comments, whatever they may be from your employee throughout the year, and on that note, you may do it one time a year during the middle of the year. You may meet quarterly during the middle of the year from beginning to end. However many times you're going to have the employee do the assessment, you can do that within your various businesses. Ultimately, step 4 is you're going to, as the manager or as the owner, going to assess the employee's progress. You're going to agree or disagree with their assessments, and you're going to offer valuable insight on how they can reach their goal. Your job is to encourage them. It's a coaching process. It's an encouragement process. Hey, look, folks, every day of the week, this world that we live in is fast-paced. It's mean. It's good, but man, it wears us out. You have the opportunity to be kind, to encourage people, and through a little bit of kindness and a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of direction, you would be amazed at how ownership within the proper employees, if they're properly positioned within your company, you'd be amazed at the results you'll see. And so you have the opportunity of that in step 4. Now, as we go on from beginning of the year to middle year, now we're wrapping up the end of our year and using our example that we laid out. You're now going to come and you're going to, as you might guess it, step number 5 is to allow the employee to review the expectations, the results, and let them rate their progress or their performance or whatever term you're using in your particular business. You're going to allow the employee, like we're doing the whole time, you're going to allow them to do self-assessment. Now, you're like, Justin, I don't know if I trust my employees that much. Hey, look, if you got the right team, they're going to be harder on themselves than you are on them, more than likely. So you're going to always allow them to do their self-assessment. In addition to that self-assessment, you, the manager, are going to constantly be reviewing. And so step number 6 in our process is now you're going to review the results, the year-end results. And you're going to look at the ratings which the employee has given. And it should not be a surprise to the employee how you're going to grade them. You should have been dealing with this the entire year. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, let them know the rules. Let them know the process of which you're going to be grading them by. And so at year end, whenever you're reviewing the results, they should not be at any bit surprised in what the results are. And so step number 7 is ultimately the manager or the owner is going to place in writing and add it to the employee file the results of this particular year's process. The employee is going to sign it. So if you have a lot of negativity during the year where the employee just isn't shaping up to your expectations, then this may be a point of termination. You may have terminated somewhere during the year. If you're dealing with a bonusing structure and the bonus is reliant upon performance, here's where the rubber meets the road. There's some hard conversations to have. If the employee did not meet the expectations and is still demanding a bonus, actually that shouldn't happen because you should have been working with them throughout the whole year. So what I've just given you is the process for performing performance management. performance management. It is a 7-step process. It's ongoing. It is not one and done. So many small business owners, first, they don't even do performance reviews. But if they do, it's like, okay, once a year, okay, let's go through our little grading sheet and let's see how we did. And ultimately, the poor employee who has been potentially busting it or not busting it is now sitting at a position where they're not exactly sure where they stand. And that's unfortunate. It doesn't have to be that way. So with that, I want to wrap up this particular episode. In our next episode, we're going to talk about actually how to conduct these meetings. We're going to go through them in detail. Hey, folks, I challenge you to go out and check the Financially Simple newsletter that's coming out. We just a minute starting to embed some video into the newsletter. We've actually had some television appearances. Those are going to be on our Financially Simple website. Our book, I can't wait. It is so close for the book to come out. I can't wait to be able to share that with you. It'll be for sale, I hope, very, very, very soon on the website and on Amazon. And it appears many national retail chains. So we're excited about that. Hey, look, I know life is hard. I get it. Life is good. It is. And it can be complicated. Money doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be hard. Let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Y'all go out and make it a great day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.